Hey,
Hey, Lenny.
what are we
Yes.
talking about today?
Oh, well, I think there's a lot going on in the energy world of astrology, and our girl Venus is showing up
Right.
pretty strong. You shared something with me about the astrology, and it pairs really well with what we talked about in the last podcast about astrology and Reiki and how you use it. So, why don't you give us the energy update first and let's see where we go with this about Venus?
Yes. Okay. So last episode, we were talking a lot about Saturn and Neptune at the end,
Hmm.
but we do need to process that a little bit more because there's so much to wrap our heads around that. And we have had conversations about that. So we're going to pause that part of the conversation and jump into another thing that's happening right now, which is Venus. Venus is the star of the show this month in April. And I think it pairs perfectly with what we were talking about Reiki and self care and connecting to yourself and your authentic self. Because Venus is about self worth, it's about our values, how we value ourselves, it's about love. And it is about connecting with others, but it's about connecting with yourself too. So in the astrology right now, we are at the last decan, is what they call, like the last third of Aries. And it's actually ruled by Venus, which I think is cool. So it's got that fiery Aries energy to it, but with a Venus undercurrent, which I think is a really cool combination. And we realized you have your moon in that decan too, which is a whole other thing that we need to tap into one on one. But I just think that's a cool feeling of energy right now. And then we have Venus is still in retrograde, but it's going direct Saturday. And on Saturday, we have a Libra full moon. Libra is ruled by Venus. And then 2 weeks later, we have a Taurus new moon. Taurus is also ruled by Venus. So we have all of this Venus energy happening this month, but there's going to be hard stuff too. There's going to be some Mars and some Pluto coming in there, some fiery stuff, just like the Aries energy. But it's like Venus wants to shine. Venus wants to be the star of the show, but it's kind of getting taken over by this other energy. So I really want to bring Venus to the forefront, especially with our Reiki practices. Like, we talked about last episode, bringing the astrology into the Reiki. And this is a perfect example of a perfect time to do that because we have all this fiery energy going on. We need to pull more of that Venus. We need to rely on a little bit more of that Venus energy this month to get us through some of that tougher stuff.
So, the Venus energy, some people think of it as just the love planet. And
Right,
it's not, she's not gushy necessarily, you
right.
know, and with it being retrograde, it speaks to the idea of the love for yourself. So if you can work through the ending, like here, hurry up and catch up, like this is going to probably show up after Venus goes direct, right? In our
Mhm.
release. So this little helpful tip that I'm giving them now, they'll have to use for the next time Venus retrogrades.
Yeah,
It's about the looking inward because with the retrogrades, it's always about that internal work, not the working with others, so to speak. Right.
exactly. And a lot of people have probably had recurring themes come up during this Venus retrograde for the past month or so around themselves, around their relationships, around how they act in relationships. And like I said, that self worth is a huge part of it. And
Yeah.
if you're not working on valuing yourself and honoring that self worth, then you probably had some stuff come up in your relationships that wasn't pretty.
Yeah. Or
So,
your finances, because you talk about
yeah.
self value. Venus also rules the money, so to speak.
Yeah.
People forget that. And it's not the love of money, but it
Uh-huh.
is that aspect of valuing yourself.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that internal work, the what I see in my head, kind of, I'm taking your language, is the Venus is literally sitting at the heart center
Hmm.
and resting on top of the solar plexus because solar plexus is about self-worth and the heart center is about that love aspect, it's compassion and that kind of thing. So if you can care deeply from an objective place of that solar plexus supporting you, not in a codependent way, not in I need love, but I am love, what Reiki brings into things, because Reiki is that divine essence of love. It heals with love. And it is from a very deep place within that the healing happens.
That really is a key point to the Reiki energy. I love the Venus sitting on top of the solar plexus. It brought to mind, like, we always talk about shining your light, and I feel like the light comes from the solar plexus. So, what a better way to charge it than with that Venus heart centered energy, which a lot of times we give to other people. You know,
Right.
we shine
Yeah.
it out because that's what we're taught to do. So, we shine it this way when we need to shine it all through, our chakras
Yeah.
first. So then that charges us, which charges other people.
Yeah.
You don't lose the light when you light another candle. You just spread it.
I like that visual a lot. And I'm racking my brain on Instagram rabbi guy. I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, yeah.
But he had a clip that I watched this week that talked about, self-care and living your soul's purpose. This was a message that I got from him. It's not selfish when you are giving yourself self-love and thinking of yourself and the work that you're supposed to do, as long as you're doing it from your soul's place, your soul's purpose.
Mhm.
Where this me generation is that it's from a material, I want to be first kind of place, which is not the Venus retrograde feeling of love. It's the
Mhm.
sole purpose. Let me connect to what you're supposed to be doing. Let me help you along the path there and
Yep.
keep you and connect to that divine energy that's inside of you. And then your purpose becomes stronger, your relationships become deeper,
Mhm.
your profitability or money or value becomes richer, because the rich aspect of Venus is not just dollars and cents, it's
Right.
value.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
what you project, you get back.
Yeah.
So the more you can project that authentic love for yourself and everybody else and respecting everybody else's purpose, you get that back too. So people start to see your value because you're connecting in an honest and true way. And us connecting to Reiki helps us to kind of find that path or connect us more deeply into our authentic selves and our authentic path. It gently guides you. And kind of when you go off the path, it's not like it slaps your hand and puts you back on. It shows you these instances where, your self-worth is put under a microscope or somebody isn't respecting your energy the way you want them to, you know. And one thing that was just coming to my mind when you were talking about that shining the light on this full moon in Libra that's coming up this weekend is going to be the sun, shines on the moon, lights it up. Illumination is kind of like the theme of full moons. The sun is going to be directly with Chiron, the wounded healer.
Oh,
So it's shining a light on all those wounds, especially in the self-worth and relationship area. So I really feel like it's going to be a big one about release, which is something that we talked about with the holy fire Reiki and how that helps you to release a lot of these wounds. And
yeah.
so if you are Reiki trained going forward, like this is going to be released after this full moon, but it's going to be prominent, for the next 6 months. Really look at what's coming up around those wounds. The Chiron is going to be in Aries too. So Aries is that authentic self. We talk about that a lot. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there are reasons that we're talking about what we're talking about now because the astrology lines up to that and the healing and the Reiki energy. It truly is like shining the light on the path. Like, here you go. Here's the next step. Here's the next
Yeah.
thing to heal.
The planets cycle around, and this is how healing happens too. So this is the beauty of astrology and Reiki or self-care work, that kind of thing, is that it circles around. So as the planets orbit the sun, they're circling around. They're not necessarily hitting exactly the same point. I mean, they kind of track,
Mhm.
and it gives you opportunity to come back to these lessons over and over again. And in self-development work, in spiritual self-development work and healing the ego-based things, you circle back around to the same lesson, but you're coming at it from a different place because you have hopefully evolved, learned a lesson, moved
Yeah.
along, and you're presented again with an opportunity to level up again when you circle back around to these common themes. And I think that one thing that we have found through our personal work together is that we've used the distance symbol a lot to help us in these places of self-healing around our self-worth, around the lessons of Venus and Libra, like that balance thing. I know like you love the Libra energy because it's prominent in your chart.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of working with somebody and understanding their placements, because it does help us learn
Mhm.
lessons that maybe wouldn't be as easy if we weren't working separately together. Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that because it really does help. I haven't taken my own advice and done my own self work because I'm like, I am a Libra rising. I should be very in tune with this moon. So there's a lesson there about self care because that is part of my self care ritual. And I've been so busy that I have not done that for myself. And thank you for pointing that out. It was like I needed that kind of wake up call.
And that, as in the last episode or the episode before, it's in the Velvet Glove, baby.
Thanks. I appreciate that. But yeah, if you look at our energies, we share the Capricorn sun.
Yes, we
That's
do.
kind of like our shared thing, but then the rest is so opposite. You have Aries energy and I have Libra energy, which are opposite energies. Me honoring your Aries and you honoring my Libra helps
Mhm.
us.
Yes.
And even in times I have to be like, I should call on more of that Aries energy, like Beth, because I
Mhm.
need action on something or I need to stand up for myself. It's calling in those energies too, because everybody has all 12 signs in their chart. We are capable of all of these things. It's just how they show up for us or how we use them.
Well, and I think the power of what you said in the last episode, talking about calling in with Reiki, like sending
Hmm.
Reiki to that astrological aspect, and then inviting that aspect in is such a powerful tool, because now, yes, Reiki is divine energy, but like the structure of the archetypes of the planets and of the house placements and that kind of thing gives you a language to do the healing.
Yeah, no, that's right on point. I have so much stuff dropping into my head right now. I don't even know where to go with it. But
Okay. Well, okay. Let me see if this will help you ferret it out there, like piece it out. Is there's a big component in the Venus aspect of self care and self love, and that would be the forgiveness factor.
mhm. Yeah, I feel like that's huge with all of our classes and our groups and our shares. I feel like that's a big topic that comes up. Forgiving ourselves for wanting to have self
Mhm.
care moments and have time to ourselves. A lot of the ladies that come to the group say, I just had to get out of the house. I had to tell everybody, this is my time. I'm going. This is part of my self care. And I love that. I know that they feel guilty about it sometimes, just like I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But we have to forgive ourselves for being in that place because it's not selfish. It's not something that we need to forgive or make up for. A lot of times I feel like if I take this hour for me, then I need to make up for it in some way. And
Hmm. Well, I think you make up for it by showing up more authentically because you've taken the time,
Mhm.
and that's the part where the guilt has got to go. Now, I I I am a person who internally hold a lot of guilt, but people don't see it on the outside, right? Because
Mhm.
I have the Capricorn stoic face with some of my other dark and twisty placement that keep me looking like, I can do it all myself. And
Mhm.
on the inside, there is a lot of that guilt and worry and even fear that's where I shine my light on for self-healing and spiritual attachment. And, all the different ways, the wounded healer. Like, I should just have a t-shirt that says, hey, that's me, because, I'm just call me Chiron, because here I am, for the aspects of never feeling understood growing up, because I was born with Chiron in a prominent place in my chart. So it says, your work is going to be tough and you're going to have to deal with these wounds. And so buckle up, buttercup, because the lessons are coming fast and furious, right? So the exterior shows together and all that kind of stuff. The interior is where the full moon in Libra and, Venus in her beauty and wisdom can really support me through connecting with that Reiki energy and inviting it in.
Yeah.
I gotta let that one sit for a minute.
Yeah. It's a lot, but could you imagine all of that stuff that you went through without Reiki? Especially now, you've healed so much since I've known you through Reiki and through working with these placements and through working with this, the guilt and the shame and owning it, facing it, and processing it.
Right.
Those are parts of the pieces, those are the pieces to the puzzle that need to be done. And I couldn't imagine doing it without Reiki.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. The number of years that I've been working with Reiki, it continues to support, heal in a supportive and gentle way. Sometimes the lessons are difficult, but it's nurturing me back to my divine purpose and being able to stand confidently in what that purpose is. Because sometimes it takes us a long time to figure out what the bleep is that purpose.
Right.
One of my favorite expressions, I won't use it here, but it's blank forsake,
Right.
Because spiritual work isn't soft and fluffy. It's not heavenly angels sitting on puffy clouds.
No.
It's not, sunshine and rainbows all the time. Sometimes it's standing with somebody in suffering or growth or struggle or, despair. There are so many people who are living in despair and fear right now that it is so palpable. Having the trust in the energy that you do your own work, that you can then stand with somebody else when they're learning how to do their work. That just like really hit my heart. Just even articulating that, because people don't know what they don't know is a hard thing. Sometimes they don't want to see where the work is.
Yeah, because it is hard. It's not fun to look at your shadows and look at the parts of you that maybe aren't that great, because that's part of the spiritual work, is facing that and, facing it in others too, and being okay with them and yourself and respecting that energy, that everybody has their own path and everybody has their own energy and nobody's perfect and everybody has flaws, and being okay with the flaws with yourself and with others. Like, that's a hard thing to be aware of and accept and sometimes look past.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm meeting myself for the first time. I've done this work. I almost don't recognize who I've become because I have changed so much that then when I go to do the work, it's like I've heard something for the first time. I'm back to that beginner's mind place where I might read the manual. We've talked about our teaching manuals. I might read it and it's almost like I'm reading it for the first time. Or you give me an astrology point and it sounds like something that I've never heard before. And yet it's a prominent placement in my chart.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect that you have to be willing to see yourself in new light every day, because you actually are in new light because you're radiating that light from within.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. That is a gracious bit. Now,
Yeah.
why don't we, in the last couple minutes here, I know we have some stuff to kind of clean up, but why don't we talk a little bit about what's coming next? Like you alluded to it in the beginning. I don't want to jump down the big rabbit hole. I don't want us to get lost down there.
Right.
But we have unpacked a few things with this Neptune thing and
Hmm.
Saturn. Now,
Yeah.
I love Saturn. I love me some Saturn, but
Hmm. Me too. And not trying to give anything away, but Saturn is kind of changing his purpose through the energy that we're coming into. And it has a lot to do with the things that we've uncovered about like the Reiki timeline with Saturn and Neptune. And one thing, I'll leak this a little bit with you personally. Saturn moved into Pisces in 2023. How long have you been on this deep reconnection with Reiki spiritual journey?
hmm,
Like you and I
yeah,
together
yeah, since
since,
about that time.
yeah. When I realized that, I'm like, that makes so much sense because Saturn is learning and structure and grounding energy. Pisces is a spirituality energy. And yeah, we embrace that the
We do.
past two
Well,
years.
it's funny because I can even remember like when I started at the market and you friended me, but like I knew you, but I didn't know you. And I mean, it was like this weird little dance because
Mhm.
it was almost like we were kind of circling around it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Saturn was like, you two need to get together. I am going to make sure you cross paths. Here you go.
Mhm.
And you're going to be fast and furious together. You're going to go through some learning,
Yeah.
little ride the waves up and down a bit. And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And then we have so much coming in, like just the timing as Neptune and Saturn move into Aries. We started this podcast, took things to the next level energetically, and we still are. We're still studying and putting all the pieces together and finding our own way. And it's just magic the way that the astrology is lining up with it. And it's not just us, it's for everybody.
well, yeah. So the
Yeah.
questions I would say, so the timeline that you said, so Saturn came in, you said in 2023, where?
So Saturn
Into,
came into Pisces in 2023. Neptune went into Pisces, I think it was 2011.
okay.
And both of them are moving into Aries. They're going to move into Aries. So Neptune is into Aries now. Saturn is going to move into Aries in May. They're going to retrograde back. And then they're going to finish and go into Aries together next year, the beginning of next year.
So for the listeners, think about what was showing up in your life in 2023,
Mm-hmm.
just a mere 2 years ago. What was
Yep.
showing up in your life? What changes were you prompted to look at? Were you questioning? Were you learning something new? Did you put in more structure in your life? If you want to look back a little bit further to the spiritual aspects of things, what was going on in your world in, what was it, 2011?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when Neptune
2011.
moved into
Yeah.
Pisces.
And that's a little bit more of a subtle, elusive kind of thing. It's just a little mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily see the flags of change from being in it, but maybe retrospect, looking back on what was going on in my life from 2011 till now, how do I see the milestones show up for me? Would be a good practice, you know?
Yes,
And then,
absolutely.
because we have some more things coming
Yes.
next that kind of blew our minds. I got to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you. I still like going back to the notes and things. I'm just so excited to share that. It's like, can we
Me
tell them
too.
now? No, we can't.
No.
You
And
don't
then we're
have
going to
enough
go
time.
into like how that
Mm,
affects the future collective and spirituality and Reiki going forward, because that is a whole other, yeah,
yeah,
I can't
uh,
start talking about it because I won't stop.
can't. So until we share again let's just take a minute and offer some Reiki to our viewers just for that idea of connecting to that place inside yourself, that self-love, resting on top of your self-worth, that you have the confidence to do the work that you were put here to do. And it's cliche-ish to say love and light, but that's really what this is all about. It's true essence of love and light. And that's what Reiki for real life is all about, is living into your divine purpose with the help of Reiki, of course.
Yes, I like that.
All righty.
Until
Sign
next
off.
time.
Till next time.